Pocatello Let's Talk About Something with Paul Schmidtline and Joan Juskie. Joan is a local poet. We're very lucky to have her with us, and that's why we're here today. We're here to talk about Joan's poetry, and plus one of the things that I feel is great about Pocatello, and that's the wildlife and the unique wildlife that Pocatello has around it. And Joan, why don't you tell us a little about your poetry and what got you interested in poetry and Pocatello, maybe?
Okay. I started writing poetry when I was 12 and kept at it. I eventually got my MFA in creative writing at Eastern Washington University and settled in the Pocatello area in 1986 and have really enjoyed it. I love walking on the Greenway and have done about 5 chapbooks of Greenway poems.
Now, what's a chapbook?
Chapbook is a very small book, about 10 to 15, 20 pages, sometimes longer, and just a very nice compact way to package poetry.
Now, when I think of poetry, I always think of rhyming and
A lot of the traditional poets rhymed, but free verse and modern imagistic poetry has been a real part of the poetry scene since the about 1925 or so, and then in the 1950s it got really big to not do rhyming poetry. But there are places for all kinds of poetry.
I think the best poetry is poetry that tells a story, and I think that's why I like Joan's poetry. It's not overly complex, but it's very visual. It can take you to the places where she's been, and that I love, because after I've read some of her poetry, one of the things that I like to do is I like to shoot video, and it seems like a lot of the places she likes, I like. And so what we're doing is we're collaborating on a project where we add her poetry and the video that I've taken, and we're going to put it together and we're going to present it to the people of Pocatello. So especially for those people, one of the reasons why I do this are in the writing group that Joan and I are in, there's some people who can't get out, and there's some people where I've heard that they think that Pocatello is ugly. And there may be spots that aren't the most beautiful, but I would say that there are spots that are as beautiful as anywhere in the Rockies. So Joan, why don't you lead us into the first project, the first book, chapbook that we're working on, Poems from the Portneuf Greenway Marmots, Joan Juskie, 2013.
Okay, here's poems from the Portneuf Greenway Marmots, and I'm just going to begin reading from the very beginning. I would like to acknowledge Paul Link and Kathy Mortar, Glenn Harvey, Hannah Sanger, Tamara Code, Billy Johnson, and the hundreds of other volunteers and contributors who have put time, money, and effort into making the Portneuf Greenway one of our local treasures. And I further would like to thank the Pocatello Arts Council, who used the first poem I will read, Spring, for a literary paver. It's on the corner of South Main and West Whitman. Okay, the poems. Spring. The Greenway explodes in color. Bright red tulips amidst pale yellow daffodils and greening grass. The river is alive with spring fullness and a landing mallard. Finally, a shy marmot. I've been searching these marmots for months, never finding them. I consider this a sign I am on the right path. Marmots. Now that I've seen them regularly at the Portneuf River, I want to see them always. I know where each of them lives, and it's a quiet morning. Nice sun to warm their fur. I wish for them to be around this special day of my vacation, set out to enjoy what I find. And often what I would find is not seeing any marmots. They're very elusive. So here's a poem about not seeing them. Not seeing no marmots. No marmots, just their memory on a walk out. Instead, plenty of red-winged blackbirds and their beautiful chirps. Mallard ducks, but not the family of ducklings I saw a few days ago. A beautiful goldfinch makes me realize I forgot to bring the binoculars. Even missing the marmots, this is a perfect spring day in Idaho, shimmering in sunlight. Walking into urban nature. I've walked far enough to feel a pleasant body tiredness. I've meditated with the fat marmot so long that our slow breath matches. Now I stand on the bridge watching over the river, fast spring flow. This Sunday I've stepped into nature so much better than ever before. Spring bird calls and greening mountains mean this will be a perfect summer. Finding my words again. 6 days of Rocky Mountain Writers Festival leave me wordless in my own language. Sure, I hear what people read, think about it, remember images, think some more. Sometimes I wake up at midnight, again at 3 a.m., still remembering. It's hard to stay asleep. Today I walked from home to beyond Centennial Park. On the Greenway, I saw marmots, beautiful mountains, a high and fast river, and spring, and found my words.
Swallows
Quick marmot view. Brief seconds, a young marmot. Quick minute, one of the big ones. 2 stray dogs scare them away. Come back another day. No marmots today. I stopped by my favorite marmot overlook. Check carefully around. No marmots today. They'd have to be crazy to come out this windblown day. I'm freezing, but need the Scout Mountain view. Snow-topped and fabulous, icing the skyline with no promise of spring ahead. Retreat. After a tough Saturday of dealing with the stress that bothered me, I came to the river to relax. Morning bird calls flutter as the river flows slowly, soothing like a breath in meditation. I unwind into words and the warmth of the sun on my skin. I want the reward of seeing another marmot in the rocks, but water ripples are enough to smooth me into a pleasant state of knowing life is as good as a mountain view, as sweet as bird calls proclaim. Noon optimism. I sneak up quietly and slowly to where the marmots live, peer closely into rocks. No marmots here today. Maybe if I came back around 5 p.m. or in late April. Time to notice the mountains, river, and Idaho sky instead. 5 Canada geese appear in the field across the river. And the final poem of the book, River Musings. Smell of a skunk. Too many trees massacred to count. 2 mallards and 5 Canada geese. 0 marmots, just memories. But I've walked till my legs are tired. Spirit soothed, brain aired out. Soul ready for new poems and a Sunday afternoon.
Excellent.
Thank you.
One of the things I was thinking of while you're reading is really how hard sometimes it is to see wildlife and how lucky we are to see wildlife right in our city limits. I saw a rock chuck today and I was kind of surprised because they summer hibernate.
Mm-hmm.
They get in there, and when it's super hot, they don't come out anymore. They stay where it's cool. And I was surprised to see one today.
Today was a bit cooler though, 10, 15 degrees cooler.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe they thought it had changed.
Now, one of the things I was thinking about too, Joan, when we do poetry, and when you go out in nature, and you talk about relaxation, do you have any like special techniques that you use to relax?
Being in nature and just sitting there watching, breathing is a really good way. I also do a regular meditation practice, about a half hour or more every day, practically. And other things like listening to really relaxing music, like Robert Linton's instrumental guitar music. Just various things that are really good to get you to a different state, which is good for both relaxing and creativity.
Now, when you relax, one of the poems you took right here on retreat. After a tough Saturday of dealing with a stress that bothered me, I came to the river to relax. So, okay, a lot of us, we work, we have bills, we have different stresses that kind of make us tense, get us to where we're just a little wound up. When you go to the river, do you think about those stresses, or do you let them go away and come back to them when you come home?
I usually go with a writing approach of I journal about it before I go and get everything down on paper, figure it out on paper, and then I go to the river to really unwind. And then if I come back, I often will take my journal with me too, and if anything comes to me in the active art of walking, if you walk a mile or two, you'll often find solutions.
And so then you write those down and
and then take it back home, and you feel a lot better usually.
because stresses don't really go away by themselves, do they? You can't meditate a stress away. What you're working for is a solution.
Finding the solution, and you can feel a lot better by meditating the stress away and not thinking about it for a time period when you're just looking around at the river and the animals and flowers and trees and listening to everything. You get away from it, and then you're fresher to go back and deal with it if it's still a problem.
One of the things I've noticed when I'm out there and I'm videotaping wildlife is that a blackbird is super happy to be a blackbird. The blackbird's so happy, like in Joan's poetry, she writes where there were lots of red-winged blackbirds and they were singing. Blackbirds are so happy they sing. I noticed that beaver are so happy being a beaver, they don't ever try to act like a marmot or a skunk. They're really happy being a beaver. It's the same with ducks and with geese and the animals. I think they've taught me to be happy to be Paul. Be happy to be who you are and where you are. And I don't know if I really have a blackbird song that I go about singing, but I think about the blackbirds too, and I just think, you know, they're so happy. And when I'm down on the river, it is just an excellent experience to watch those families operate. And I think a lot of times people don't understand that animals, when they see animals, they see individual animals. And just like Joan and I, we are individuals, but we're also parts of families. Like I'm a husband and a dad to kids. And this morning I was watching some geese, and there was one parent in front and one parent in back and 4 of them in the middle. And those geese, I saw I saw the eggs in the springtime. So before the children were even born, I saw the eggs. And then I videotaped them as little yellow down goslings. And now the geese, the goslings are growing up and they're black and white. And you almost can't tell which ones are the parents and which ones are the babies, the goslings. But the goslings are still small enough you can tell the difference. And one of the things I noticed in nature is just what great parents birds and rock chucks and beaver are for their young. They're willing to die for their kids, but they're great teachers. It's a great experience. Should we move on to water meditations?
Okay. Last year, for my Christmas book, I did water meditations. This is a very tiny waterfall on City Creek near the Rose Garden Park, a photograph that I took. And this book is probably one of my most mellow ones I've done because I had been retired about 3 years when I did it. And retirement has been a wonderful time for working on poetry in a big way. After Winter, an early spring poem. First Greenway visit in months. Sun out today and a marmot is out. Elation. City Creek still has a little ice by the waterfall. So beautiful and chilly. The wind picks up. I hurry back to warmth. One thing I want to mention too is all of these poems I did in the year 2014, if anybody is watching this at some far point in the future. Returning, I head back to the falls for a last look and listen before going on with my day. Nature restores in every way, giving your spirit a new calm, like the quiet leaf you notice moving. City Creek at the Rose Garden Park, my favorite nature place to walk, just 12 quick blocks from home. I come here often to meditate. The creek gurgles loudly enough to soothe. I can lose stress and anxious pressures as I exhale into cool air. Water cascades over smooth rock, and I am calmed and renewed. Sometimes the closest place and simple daily routine is best. City Creek. I come to the slow river, strung out and stressed. The calm of morning meditation vanished. In the midst of moving my life back to the college neighborhood, a welcome change, but hours of work and uncertainty. I listen to spring birds and stream, and I calm. After these blossoms, my late spring will flower. City Creek Thursday. Sitting with the quieter creek, shrunken from July's heat, I become part of the water. First, I move a lot closer, so I hear mostly the creek and see it up close, clear. Rocks, twigs, leaves, litter, and most of all water, gently ripples. Heads for the falls. Only about 2 feet high, the waterfowl sounds loud this dry time, immersing my spirit. Returning, I head back to the falls for a last look and listen before going on with my day. Nature restores in every way, giving your spirit a new calm, like the quiet leaf you notice moving. Slowing down. Spend quiet time at the gentle creek. Just sit, look, listen. When enough calm has seeped into you, go ahead and write. Then go back to quiet time. Staying so long you have to make yourself go back to life. But now it's a different life. You've moved to relaxation and take it home with you. That really fits with what you were saying. Idaho fall. So warm it could be summer, but it's late September. Dried golden leaves cover the ground. Will be snow in a month or two. I've escaped to the river where squirrels are busy, loudly chewing, chasing interloping squirrels away. I must take advantage of all these warm outdoor days before winter makes me hibernate. Portneuf River backyard. When I want time in nature, I head for the Portneuf to see and hear the falls. Nature on one side, concrete on the other. It reminds me of growing up with the lake in my Florida backyard, White Trout Lake to be specific. Afternoons out in a rowboat, penning poems like I now do with a short walk or drive, hanging out in my river backyard. After exercise, relaxation. I go to City Creek and the Rose Garden Park to relax after exercise class. The creek is melodious, along with many birds and fall colors superb. Red, gold, orange, green, yellow, all visible from here. I sit relaxing into fall. And the final poem in the book, Goodbye to the River. It's so humid on this rainy autumn day that the vegetation smell fills the air. Wet leaves, soggy bark, and damp air, chilling all. I'm ready to head back to warmth. But thank you for the poems, the calm, and the reflections of trees in the flowing water.
Ooh, excellent. Now I have a question again.
Okay.
I was listening to you while you were reading City Creek. She says, I come to the slow river, strung out and stressed. The calm of morning meditation vanished. We don't have to be junkies to be strung out, do we?
No. For me, the strung out I was referring to was a specific time of moving from one rental to another, and in the process of moving, your life is total chaos, and you get a roadblock or two that you have to deal with, and just unexpected things coming up. You can get strung out on everyday life even.
And
Yeah.
poetry, you found that poetry is a way to loosen the tension in the strings.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're always going to have strings. There's no doubt about it. But to relax and loosen the tension, and I think that's what poetry is about. I think when Joan and I go to nature, one of the reasons we go is to relax, to learn, to let the air soothe you and calm you. Let the water sounds relax you, kind of release that tension that we have.
And we're so lucky to have such close nature here in Pocatello. Easy walk or drive, and then you've got beautiful country and animals all around you. It's great.
Yeah, the Pocatello Valley sits in such a unique spot. I was at Gibson Jack this morning, and I sometimes I don't even know why I go to places. I just end up there. And so I ended up at Gibson Jack, and one of the things I've been thinking about is having wild fisheries in our streams. I was talking with a friend, and he was telling me that it costs $7 a trout for a hatchery fish. For every one that the Fish and Game plants, it costs $7. And I was thinking, as a taxpayer, geez, wild fish are free to the taxpayers, and they're beautiful. And so I was up at Gibson Jack, and I was videotaping, and I wanted to get some sounds of the stream. And my wife, Lynette, she's got great eyes. She's like a scout. She's like, she'll come find things and say, hey, why don't you videotape this? Well, she saw some minnows. And in a video that'll come up, I'm sure I'll show people in Pocatello the minnows, because I think we have a very unique and rare trout.
Are they baby trout? Minnows?
I can't tell for sure. I want to show someone, see if we can verify it. I have seen trout in Gibson Jack, and I think they're native. There's a little some people say that the cutthroat trout around Pocatello are Yellowstone cutthroat trout, and some people say that they're Bonneville cutthroat trout. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they have a map, and it shows overlap between the two places in our unique valley.
Yeah.
And I think it's super cool that we have the potential to have a wild fishery here again. But you can see, like at City Creek, it'd be really hard for fish to get from the Portneuf River back up into City Creek.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's really
The huge culvert.
it's a culvert
A big drainage thing.
that drops 6 feet into the river.
Yeah.
And so that fish should have to be like a Michael Jordan type fish and be able to jump 6 feet. And it's probably not going to happen. But back to the poetry and nature, one of the places that Joan likes to go is Sacagawea Park, I call them the North Pocatello Parks, the Northwest Pocatello Parks, and during the summer months, I would really encourage the viewers of Channel 12, if you have an opportunity to get out to Sacagawea and that Abruzzi Trail. Those are great places to go in the summertime because those are rainforests. Not that it literally is, they're there because of rain, but during the summer months when you walk under and through those groves of trees, the trees will rain on you. As they respirate, you will feel the water, and it's so cooling and refreshing because not only do you get the shade, but you literally get water put on you. And there's a mist that comes from the trees. It's really a beautiful experience.
What you were talking about reminded me of a poem I wrote about North City Park that includes a beaver in it.
Oh.
Do you want me to read a quick one?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
North City Park. Tonight my glass of red wine indoors seems to reflect the mountain sunset outside. At the bottom of the hill the Portneuf River grows, swollen from all this rain. Today I walked the North City Park Trail, marveled at signs of a beaver wanting to make the park his. His logs will redirect the river, redesign the greenway landscape to be more wild.
Well, since Joan's brought beaver up, I'll just let the viewers know there are a few beaver in Pocatello. I think we have a population of over 50,000 humans in this city. I would say that the beaver population's probably less than 6, maybe between 6 and 10. But there's a young couple that they've moved in. They look like a pair of 2-year-olds who've got together. And I hope that we can make it a safe place for them, a place where they don't have to be relocated, a place where Joan and I and everyone else in Pocatello can go off that 5th Street Bridge and watch them at times. Because at times they'll come out and they'll share themselves with you. They're like rock chucks. There's times where they'll be out in the open and visible, and there'll be other times when they're not going to be visible, but they're there, and we can see the evidence of them being there because of the trees that are cut and the willow boughs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I really enjoy watching them on video because I have not yet seen them in real life, but on Paul's video, it is just so neat to watch a beaver swimming around for 10 minutes, flapping his tail.
Yeah, and there's some new shots that we have where, you know, they're picking up things and you get to see how they use their hands, and you get to understand that they're great. They're individuals too. They may not be humans, but they're beaver individuals, and that's just as good as a human individual in my book. So, thanks for your time. This is Pocatello. Let's talk about something, and we're going to call this a show, and we'll cut it from here.
Thank you for having me on.
And maybe we'll have an outtake with our a blooper now. Can we cut that out?
Babies use the dams and the overbanks as protective cover as they zagging and out of. this part of the river this morning because last night I heard about a beaver that was almost as big as man. It's said to be as big as half a man, with a tail as long as legs. So I'm here trying to find that beaver. See this little muskrat. See some waxwings. See the baby geese that are growing up very fast. They probably won't even